So I just got done watching the Game Awards, and shockingly, I have some opinions, some of which I shared on Blue Sky. I will incorporate relevant posts of that thread into this video. But yeah, normally I would reserve this for the weekly waypoint, but in recent years I found that, you know, sometimes I want to talk about it a little bit more than a weekly waypoint runtime tends to allow for, so I will do a dedicated thoughts on video for this. I'm not going to linger on any announcements or awards that I have no particular opinion on, so if I don't talk about something, just assume that I don't really care. I tuned in just in time to see Pac-Man Metroid, so I did miss out on most of the pre-show, or maybe about half of it, because I was still getting home from work. I work fairly late hours, but I'm still a little bit, you know, put off by it. The Game Awards did a lot to win me over this year. I think last year's Game Awards was pretty dire, but this year I think they addressed a lot of the problems. But something I still don't really agree with is the whole, we have a pre-show for games which we don't care as much about. I guess it's more of a, like, that's probably a cynical way of looking at it. It's probably more that they just don't have time to really announce everything that wants to get a spot in the main show. I think my main problem with the pre-show is how they give awards out during it and they rattle them off quickly, and sometimes this happens during the main show too. Jeff Keighley will be like, alright, now we're going to do some awards, and he rattles off like 3 or 4 categories at once really quickly, doesn't give anyone a chance to accept the award or make a speech or anything like that. Again, I know it's a time constraint thing, but it still doesn't really feel right to me. Kiora straight up looks like Terraria 2. Ooh. But yeah, I should really go back at some point and check out the entirety of the pre-show, because there's a lot of cool things that get announced during that thing. One of the awards they gave out during the pre-show was Best Family Game and Astro Bot Sweep. Yeah, I was cheering for Astro Bot this year, even though I don't own a PlayStation 5 and have never played the game, so I need to kind of explain myself here. I haven't played most of the games that show up as Game Awards nominees this year. I tend to be more of like a I'll get to it when I get to it kind of a gamer, but Astro Bot to me embodies the kinds of games that don't get made too often anymore, and they're the games that I grew up with and the games that I love, and so I really was rooting for Astro Bot with my full chest, or whatever. What's the phrase? Dang, Statler and Waldorf really out here dragging Jeff. My word. So while these Muppets have been guests before in previous years in the Game Awards, this year they served a interesting function. This year they kind of existed to roast Jeff Keighley and the Game Awards in general, and kind of like be the pseudo voice of the internet, just so that the Game Awards could kind of say, yeah, we see you, we get you, we hear you. And while it did feel a little bit ham-fisted, I also thought it was, yeah, like I said, kind of necessary. I do think it's maybe a little bit awkward when you get them to take the piss out of the fact that the Game Awards nominated a DLC, when you invited the people of that DLC to the audience and then said we might give you a Game of the Year award, to then be like, what are they doing nominating DLC as Game of the Year? I think that's a little bit awkward, but ultimately it wouldn't be a Game Awards show without a little bit of cringe and awkwardness now, would it? Aww, the standing ovation for Harrison Ford. So yeah, sometimes the Game Awards likes to be like, you know, we're recognizing that this huge game that's been really well received just came out, and obviously did not meet the criteria for being within the time frame to receive a nomination, but, you know, kind of like nudge nudge, it probably would have been there, so we're going to give them some stage time. I saw someone in the comments say that Troy Baker, Harrison Ford, and Todd Howard all sharing a stage feels like a fever dream, and yeah, I've got to agree with that, to be honest. But it was really nice that they took the time to recognize the original Indiana Jones, and then for him to, like, he didn't need to do this, but for him to then recognize Troy Baker's performance and Todd Howard and the game developers who made the game and everything. Like, some people watching the Game Awards, I'm sure, who are more cynical than me, see that stuff and they're like, yeah, okay, patting yourselves on the back, get on with it, etc., etc. But I really do lean into the wholesomeness of that kind of exchange. In general, I'm just happy to sign up for, like, oh, this is what we're doing, okay, we're having fun with this, you know? Like, I don't give a shit about cringe culture. Cringe culture is in itself cringe, and I think it's important to be able to see that some things might be, I'm not necessarily talking about this exchange now, but later things in the show, some things may be a little bit staged, a little bit on the nose, you know, a little bit awkward, and just, you know, you can get through it, you'll survive, it's fine. Anyway, I need to get on because there's a lot to talk about. The Witcher 4 got announced, and I have played The Witcher 1 and The Witcher 2 and The Witcher 3, and I've played probably about 5 hours of each one of those games. So this announcement didn't necessarily hit me in the hype that it hit everyone else in, but nonetheless, I was really intrigued to see it, and I really liked seeing Ciri. She looked older, and seeing her as like the main character, the protagonist, as we always knew she was going to be in this sequel. And yeah, it was just a really cool trailer, and I look forward to seeing more from the game and hopefully playing it one day. But I really need to go back and play more of at least The Witcher 3. I kind of want to read the original book series it's all based on as well. They also announced a sequel to Elden Ring and made it co-op. When they were doing in the trailer like this kind of blue, it almost looked like a battle royale blue storm ring kind of like moving in, and I was like, surely they're not making an Elden Ring battle royale. But no, they made a sequel. The way Jeff phrased it going into it, I thought it was going to be an entirely new IP, so I was confused when I started recognizing Elden Ring things. But I'm not an Elden Ring guy, I'm not a Souls-like guy, but all the same, pretty big announcement there. I'm surprised to see it so soon. It does remind me of a Fallout 76 announcement coming so soon after Fallout 4, and you're like, oh, I didn't know this was possible. And it's like, was this made by a different studio? Or is it just like standalone DLC? I don't know. I'm happy to see Final Fantasy VII Rebirth coming to PC, but given that I still need to finish Remake, it was less of a like, yay, I'm so glad it's coming, and more of like a, oh, you know, I was already expecting it to come to PC by the time I got to that entry, but I'm still happy. I still need to play 16. I still need to play the rest of 3, and then 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and the rest of 10 and the rest of 12, and yeah, okay. Abubakar Salim showed up with an absolutely fucking diabolical...
Don't worry, I'm not gonna cry about my dead dad this time, but...
Abubakar! I love that guy, by the way. You should check out Tales of Kanzera because it's a great game, but just like 90% of the games I've ever played, I need to give more time to. Anyway, Black Myth Wukong won Best Action Game. I know nothing about that game, but The Outer Worlds 2 has the best trailers. I gotta say, between Statler and Waldorf, Abubakar Salim, and The Outer Worlds 2 trailer, and a few other things as well, the Game Awards was disturbingly self-aware this year. Like, if there is one driving theme of the Game Awards 2024, it's, yes, we know. Anyway, they had Joseph fucking Ferris back to talk about his new fucking game, and for the first time, I'm actually fucking interested. Split Fiction does look hella cool. I love the whole concept of like, oh, one person invented a fantasy world and one person invented a sci-fi world, and you're kind of like going between the two worlds, and each level has its own kind of mechanic like all the best platformers do these days. Now, I was having a conversation with Reese the other day about whether they even addressed the industry layoffs in the previous Game Awards. I thought they had, turns out they hadn't. Or at least I couldn't find anything that they said about it when I went to go and check. And I think honestly that was contributing to my sense leading into these Game Awards of, you know, a little bit of cynicism. The idea that the Game Awards was getting away from the thing that, you know, made it what it was, which was supposed to be celebrating the game developers. I feel like a lot of people overlook that, and it kind of becomes a lot of infighting about who deserves Game of the Year, and a lot of problems surrounding the gaming industry and award shows like the Game Awards, because at the end of the day, it is all arbitrary, no matter how much objectivity we try to inject into these discussions. And so I was really pleased when Jeff Keighley came out with the whole game changer thing.
Now, the sad reality is that over the past few years, the gaming industry has suffered significant and unprecedented industry-wide layoffs. Those affect the games we get to play, and even more importantly, the people who make the games we love. We can debate and certainly disagree with the reasons why, and honestly, as a show, we kind of struggle with how to address these topics in a constructive way.
You've got to remember that, like, Phil Spencer is sitting in the audience, right? There were multiple times throughout these Game Awards when, you know, a lot of the things that some of the people sitting in the audience directly believed in were outright criticized to their faces, and I really respect that. And of course, Jeff Keighley's not the important one here. The guy who got the award I didn't even know he existed, and that's what I think is so great about the Game Changer Award, is kind of being like, hey, look at this guy. He's doing good in the world. I fucking love that so much. It was probably the highlight of the Game Awards this year, was Amir Satvat, his name is. See, like, I really didn't know he existed. Just out of the goodness of his own heart, completely for free, helping game developers find new jobs after they got laid off and stuff. Like, that's huge. And hopefully putting a human face to not just this guy, but the people he helped and the people that needed help kind of gets, you know, the higher-ups in the gaming industry to reevaluate how they prioritize certain things.
Over the last 3 years, we've lost more than 34,000 jobs, a staggering amount of games experience eliminated. This has consequences. You can't make great games without great people.
So yeah, I'm really glad they made the Game Changer Award, and while I hope that every year there is someone worthy of receiving it, I also hope that they don't just by default look for someone to give it to every year, if you know what I mean. I hope that it exists as a thing to aspire to, but not necessarily, they don't, meet up every year and go, okay, now who are we giving a Game Changer award to? Because otherwise at that point it becomes a little bit less meaningful. The Arcane soundtrack performance, yes! So obviously I recently put out a video talking about my full spoiler thoughts on Arcane Season 1 and Season 2. I won't give any spoilers here. They certainly gave some spoilers in like the images they showed for the performance, but whatever. But when I love a show, I tend to listen to its soundtrack for weeks or months after the show has ended, just to kind of like give myself, first of all, because the soundtracks are really great in their own right, but just to kind of like allow the show to live on in my memory a little bit more, if you know what I mean. And I have been addicted to the Arcane Season 2 soundtrack specifically, so to have some of those artists up on stage performing live was great. I'm not really like a live performances guy, especially when it comes to like watching them through a screen, but at the same time, this was a really great and moving performance, and it's probably the first time that the Game Awards has put on such a performance that I've cared about. Arcane did not win Best Adaptation, but it did for Season 1, and I can't really argue with Fallout winning it for Season 2, so I'm glad they decided to honour Arcane in this way instead. Astrobot won Best Game Direction. Astrobot sweep! And of course I'm memeing at this point because Astrobot did not sweep, it did not win every award it was nominated for, and rightfully not as well, because some games did some things better in some of the categories that it appeared as a nomination for. But again, I picked a game to support this Game Awards, and I was well rewarded. I really hope they bring that game to PC sometime soon. Nestled in amongst a bunch of trailers that I was half paying attention to was an update to Palworld, and I happened to notice, did I just see Spectria? Palworld's still skirting a little close to the sun, eh? Oh, also Turok is getting a new game? That's pretty cool. I've never played the originals, but I keep meaning to. Some of these events may be a little bit out of order, by the way, because I'm flipping between my tweet thread, the VOD, and an article about all the best games revealed, but I'm doing my best out here, okay? It's a lot. Balatro won Best Debut Indie Game, and the guy who made it wasn't there. He just wanted to tell people, through his friends, I assume, hey, go play indie games, please, which is fairly wholesome. And I like that his friends were also like, we hope you take a minute and like recognize that this award's been given to you and you're awesome. I've not played Balatro, but since Pokemon TCG Pocket invaded my life, my distaste towards card games has receded somewhat, so I may give it a go. Now, I'm not an Onimusha guy, but about halfway through the trailer I realized what this probably was, and Onimusha? Oh shit, Reese is gonna be stoked. And then after a Discord message right on cue, can confirm, Reese is stoked. I don't know about you, man, but I legitimately get so excited for my friends when games from their favourite series get announced, even if I have no stake in those particular series. Reese deserves an Onimusha sequel, damn it. I'm glad he's getting one. Astrobot sweep! What? Hang on, wait, shit. Wait, which award did they win this time? Let me go check. Ah, that was for Best Action Adventure Game. I wouldn't have minded seeing Prince of Persia win that one either. I've heard some really good things, and apparently that game didn't get the attention it deserved. And then they announced a Game of Thrones game. As a massive Game of Thrones fan, oh no, this game does not look good. So from what I can tell from the trailer, you play as a knighted man in a minor northern house who ends up being sent to the wall. I don't know whether he takes the black or whether he's just sent to the wall, and then he gets sent on a mission by Jon Snow himself to go and alert the South about the White Walker invasion. It seems like this takes place in some of the later seasons of the show, which is definitely a choice. And just yesterday I think I was considering a Game of Thrones game, what it could be. There are so many good games you could make in the world of Ice and Fire, but a game that's tied heavily to the show and to the show's plot and to the characters of that show, so you're kind of like this self-insert inside events that didn't really need your addition, and the graphics look bad and outdated, and the combat looks like it doesn't fit in with the show's universe. God damn it, why couldn't we just have a well-made original RPG set within the world of Ice and Fire, not necessarily tied to the television show, but like the actual book's lore, and tell a meaningful original story within a different time period set within that world, with game mechanics that actually gel with the themes and the stories that world is trying to tell. So instead of having like this action RPG where you're this god who can take down multiple enemies at once, make combat be meaningful. You know what? I'm not a Souls-like guy, but if there was ever an argument for a Souls-like RPG, it would be within the Song of Ice and Fire universe. God fucking damn it. We already have a bad Game of Thrones RPG. We didn't need another one. Sorry, I'm very passionate about this IP. God fucking damn it. Why are they even making this now? It's not even tied to House of the Dragon, which is good. You know, it has its issues, but it's good. Why did they tie it to the TV show, which is universally scorned, and set it in a time period within the TV show, which is part of a time period that is universally scorned? The second Jon Snow showed up, I was like, fuck, we're cooked. Okay, moving on. It could be good. It could be good. Against all the odds, maybe it's good. I think my big takeaway from this year's TGAs is how short Todd Howard is. He is a short king. Just look at him stood up there next to Troy Baker. He's so small. He's so dinky. Rumor is he used to be a tall man, but a lot of that height went into the Elder Scrolls V. So anyway, I genuinely like Todd Howard, which is becoming a increasingly controversial opinion. I think it was unfortunately came off very corporate, the way that when he was up there with the Fallout TV show people, just as they were about to walk off, he jumped on the mic and also thanked a bunch of people, and it came across kind of icky. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, but obviously, you know, I don't know the man personally. Wouldn't be the Game Awards without, yes, they put me in the game.
Yes, that's actually a thing.
Call me naive or whatever, but I do find that endearing. Next award we care about is the best soundtrack. Astro wait, not that one. Now, from what I've played of Final Fantasy VII Remake and listened to, I've listened to a bunch of that soundtrack that I haven't even reached in game yet. That game has a phenomenal soundtrack, and I'm assuming Rebirth does too, so I was rooting for Final Fantasy VII. New Sonic Kart Racer, huge!
Yeah, that's all you get.
I was really rooting for Pokemon, the trading card game Pocket, to win for best mobile game. The first and only time I'll probably ever be invested in the best mobile game category, but I forgot that Balatro also has a mobile version. Sam Lake showed up to give Best Narrative Award, and I tried out the word looksmaxing. I have no idea if I got that right, if there are any young folk. You probably shouldn't be watching my videos, actually, so never mind. God, I'm aging. That one went to Metaphor Refantasio, a game I have not played, but I do want to. Then... I'm not going to be the only one to say this. It's neat that Okami is getting a sequel, but Jeff, man, from that intro I thought something insane was happening. He was teeing up like a console reveal or like an Elder Scrolls 6 drop or something. Look, maybe I'm just like underestimating the influence of Okami. I know it's a great game, but come on, man.
All right, well, before we get to Game of the Year, we do have one last very special announcement to share with you. This year, the stars aligned for some very magical things to happen at our anniversary show. Things that might not have ever seemed a possibility. If you truly love video games like I do, this moment is for all of us.
Like, okay, looking back on it, I guess I understand. But it is also wild that he said one last surprise when it wasn't even the one last surprise. Kind of set my expectations a little bit higher. And for the record, like, I think Okami deserves better than to have the majority of people who might not have experience with Okami now, you know, giving it scorn maybe for being like, oh, this isn't the announcement I thought it would be. Like, I kind of am. I guess Jeff must be a big Okami fan, but like, maybe take a little bit of yourself out of that announcement in terms of emotion. I don't know. I don't know if I'm being too critical here, let me know. Anyway, the other big gaming announcement, which I actually didn't make a post about, so this is a video exclusive. Jeff's not the only one with world premieres. What are we looking at here? I do like outer space. What did they do to the moon? No! And the Earth. Oh dear. Porsche? Why is it a Porsche? Why is the spaceship a Porsche? Is this some branded shit? What's happening? I'm trying to figure out what game engine this looks like. Do you think Rockstar might have made an outer space game? I've got Rockstar on the brain lately because I've been playing GTA 3. It's probably not Rockstar. From a studio that brought you... This is Naughty Dog? Oh, I'm in. I haven't been on board for The Last of Us. I did play Uncharted 1. I liked Uncharted 1. But I miss Naughty Dog being not super grimdark. So I'm really excited by this. I really like how it looks so far. Some gameplay, hell yeah. Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. Nice. Oh, I'm so pleased that they're doing that. I don't own a PS5 though. Fuck. There you go, reacted to that one in real time. The only thing left to talk about is the Game of the Year. Oh, we're not even at 20 minutes. I've made pretty good time. So it was presented by Sven Vink. Sven Swenvink? I don't know how to pronounce his name, I apologize. Head of Larian Studios, who made Baldur's Gate 3 and 1 last year. And he made a really good fucking speech. You should go and watch it if you haven't already. But the way he approached his speech is it drew you in because you're like, what the hell is he talking about? Because he talks about he knows who the Game of the Year winners for 2025 are, for 2026 and 2027. And of course he doesn't. But like, he frames it as he went to see this oracle who told him that it would be people who had a passion for making games, people who weren't just putting out games for profit, that kind of thing. He said it far, far better than I could ever sum up, but again, I want to reiterate, he is saying this in front of an audience of not just game developers, but studio executives, and I cannot applaud him enough for that. And he even made a little jibe about how he got played out before he had time to really accept his Game of the Year award last year. So good, I have a lot of respect for that man for doing that. And then the Game of the Year was Astro Sweep. Yeah, you already knew that was coming. I would have also been happy to see it go to Metaphor ReFantasio, but again, I am purely coming to the Game Awards this year from an outsider looking in perspective, so I can't ever truly know for sure. But for the reasons I mentioned at the start of this video, I'm really happy to see Astrobot win Game of the Year. I hope it inspires countless other games like it. I thought it was really sweet that they paid homage to Nintendo and Super Mario, basically saying that, you know, of course, without Super Mario, none of these games would be here. Especially since that came from like a PlayStation executive, and you got the impression that he probably wasn't supposed to say those things, or he might get told off for saying those things. Like, he was like, oh, I'm not mentioning Nintendo by name, can you tell? But yeah, like I say, I will jump on the first chance I get to play that game. I really want to play it. But yeah, that wraps up the Game Awards. I think it was far better this year than it's been for a little while, not just in terms of game announcements and the choices of awards and stuff like that, but also just, as I already mentioned, addressing issues within the industry and not being afraid to, and that kind of thing. When I told some of my friends I was excited about watching the Game Awards this year, I was met with a little bit of like, oh yeah, but you know, Jeff Keighley and the Game Awards, ugh, you know, that kind of thing, and I get that. But I'll be lying if I didn't say that the Game Awards this year didn't kind of reaffirm my, like, you know, not everything that's super popular is inherently bad. Again, call me naive or whatever, but I do believe that Jeff Keighley at least wants this to be a recognition of efforts made by human beings making art. And maybe this time last week I wouldn't have been able to say that sentence, but this year, you know, they kind of reiterated that, which I appreciated. And while there was a lot of self-referential kind of like dunking on yourself kind of a thing, I joked about that earlier, but I think the real theme of this year's Game Awards was pushing back against the executives within the industry, you know, with all the layoffs and the way that they're treating people, and it was really nice to see. So thank you for tuning in. Let me know what you thought should have been Game of the Year, or what your personal Game of the Year was. I will have my own video coming out about that this weekend for my personal Game of the Year, and I will see you then.